Bolivian election results are available, and center-right wing candidates Paz and Quiroga have earned the opportunity to participate in the second round within the next few weeks, which means that socialist government that had impoverished Bolivia during the last few decades is coming to an end, which will represent marvelous business opportunities for companies who would like to develop impressive lithium salt fields at Uyuni, promoting economic development for Bolivian population, which needs such investment and participation in the international community. Congratulations for both Paz and Quiroga. They differ in their strategies for modernizing the economy. Paz prefers to reallocate federal funding to departments and regions, while Quiroga would explicitly privatize many state-owned industries and get out of Mercosur. This last call, however, reduces credibility in Quiroga because getting out of Mercosur is not a good option. Any proposal to remove your trade agreements with your neighbors within the context of a united South America, Central America, and the Caribbean is not desirable. Instead, Mercosur should continue growing until it merges with CELAC. Vladimir Putin is expected to speak again with Donald Trump after the results of this afternoon meeting with President Zelensky, President Macron, Prime Minister Meloni, Prime Minister Starmer, Chancellor Merz, European Commission Ursula von der Leyen, NATO Chief Rutte, and the young president of Finland. The meeting was surprisingly sober. There were no TV sensational infights, and they all looked relatively calm. Zelensky even wore a suit, a black suit, with no tie. And Donald Trump played a good host. Even Zelensky spoke about territorial discussions that he could address in a further meeting with Vladimir Putin that will be organized by Donald Trump shortly. And there is not too much noise on this meeting, which suggests that probably Europeans are conceding defeat in the Ukraine war, and they are trying to find appropriate wording to save their political careers. The Guyana presidential election is becoming absolutely messy, and the Venezuela embassy soap opera is still on the table, which is absolutely ridiculous. And in Guyana social media, you are surprisingly looking at population not talking too much about the border dispute, but also about that if Venezuelans can enter Guyana, Guyanese should enter Venezuela, which is completely true. I can't recall a single case of any Guyanese being deported back to Guyana. Ever. Either born in Essequibo or born in the rest of Guyana. We are brother countries, we are sister countries. The only division we have is language. If Venezuela and Guyana could make arrangements for Essequibo so that the Venezuelan presence can increase in Essequibo and leave the sovereignty dispute for later, and we can develop the refinery and joint mining ventures. Another business opportunity could be English classes. So many Venezuelans want to learn English. Why can't we learn English within our own country? That could also be a business opportunity for Guyanese and the Essequibans. It's unfortunate that xenophobia is coming from the very Vice President Jagdeo. That will probably cost the PPP some votes. I do not know if I endorse explicitly Asruddin Mohammed's campaign. I do not wish to do so because now I hear that he said that he doesn't want a visa to Venezuela, that he doesn't want to travel to Venezuela, although he has made business with us before. And also Jagdeo is with all this threat, and the defense minister of Guyana also, that going to Venezuela or speaking in good terms about Venezuela is a treason to Guyana. That is ridiculous. Venezuelans who speak fondly about Guyana do not get that kind of treatment here. Are people being arrested in Guyana because of supporting any contact with Venezuela? We'll see. It's very unfortunate that Marco Rubio and Maria Elvira Salazar are taking this Guyana campaign so profoundly, endorsing Irfan Ali even with their military. They are exposing the Navy and the Air Force of the United States all over the Caribbean with the excuse that Venezuela is threatening Guyana. As far as I know, there was one or two incursions on waters that have not even been delimited yet, that lasted for a few minutes or hours. And as I have always told you, I personally welcome any petroleum development Guyana can get because they deserve it. And they actually should ask in the electoral campaign if Irfan Ali, if Guyana is being adequately compensated, because it is a joke in Venezuela that we are able to extract from the majors much higher percentages than the 2% allegedly that ExxonMobil pays Guyana, and still that's $1.5 billion a day for Guyana. And Guyanese reports from ordinary people is that money is not flowing downstream. So is Irfan Ali's government corrupt? We don't know. Something that really upset me is that Venezuela has built a bridge between Essequibo and Venezuela so that our populations, goods and services can communicate. And also for the comfort of expatriates. There are many Venezuelans living in Guyana, and they should have a decent transportation infrastructure so that they can eventually come back and visit relatives and then go back to their new lives in Guyana. It's South American integration, for Christ's sake. Why would a Guyana politician tell you that a Guyana-Venezuela international bridge is a bad idea? Irfan Ali is boasting a new Demerara bridge, which is fine, but then where is the Essequibo bridge? Where is the Corentin bridge? Can the existing bridge in Berbice be improved? Guyana has several major rivers. Cuyuni is another one. And there should be 3 or 4 crossings from north to south per river. So Guyana needs about 20 bridges. Has Guyana built those 20 bridges yet? No, it hasn't, right? So there's a lot more work to do for infrastructure. In any case, it's unfortunate that the electoral campaign in Guyana has been speaking about this Venezuelan embassy soap opera of Nasruddin Mohammed and his family, because it has diverted attention from domestic Guyana issues and from business opportunities with Venezuela, Trinidad and Tobago, Brazil, and Suriname. But political warfare, unfortunately, loves these irrelevant stories to have a lot of likes and subscribers. Very unfortunate. We still have to speak about the bad move of Marco Rubio of deploying all this theater in the Caribbean. I tried to find conventional United States media reports, and I actually found a Fox News report, and they vaguely spoke about Southern Caribbean, which includes so many countries. Is it in Panama? Is it in Nicaragua? Is it near Costa Rica? Is it near Colombia? Gustavo Petro, by the way, is actually working very closely with President Maduro to develop our own South American counter-drug traffic and counter-terrorism units, so that we don't depend on the surprise visits from the United States military. And of course, anything that unites Colombia and Venezuela will not be welcomed by the United States or Europe. If Venezuela and Colombia unite, we would be resembling the power of Brazil, especially if Mexico steps in. And the Mexican president is not either happy with the incursions of Marco Rubio early presidential campaign movements of troops. J.D. Vance must be so happy this is happening, because this is obviously going to increase J.D. Vance's chances to become the presidential candidate. Because of course J.D. Vance is not wasting his time in this stupidity of upsetting at once all South American countries. Nicolas Maduro, by the way, is gaining a lot of support. The United Nations Charter Friends wrote a United Nations letter deploring United States deployment of vessels and aircraft into the Caribbean, and such countries are Algeria, Belarus, Bolivia, China, Cuba, North Korea, Eritrea, Iran, Laos, Nicaragua, Russia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Palestine, Syria, Venezuela, of course, which is the founding member, South Africa, Vietnam, Equatorial Guinea, Zimbabwe, Mali, Burundi, Ethiopia, and Namibia. Cambodia and Angola were part of this group, but they left recently. Still, we're talking about a sizable part of the world in the list of countries just noted. And skimming through Caribbean news, it sounds like major Caribbean countries like Trinidad and Tobago and Jamaica and probably Haiti are warming up to the idea of the Pan-African currency or the BRICS currency or whatever they can do to de-dollarize trade, which is a goal that Venezuela has been pursuing for a long time, along with Brazil. So, going back to Guyana electoral campaign, is it worth asking for votes, threatening United States sanctions to political parties that do not vote PPP? The list of countries that are evading sanctions and denouncing sanctions at the United Nations and clearly saying no to war on Caribbean waters is huge. Or is Guyana going to be locked in a huge South America, Central America, and Caribbean unified platform? Because I'm sure Bolivia will remain with the rest of the Americas, because chances of Paz winning are much higher than Quiroga. Quiroga was an ex-president who lost after with Evo Morales, while Paz is new. He might be son of a former president, but still they are two different persons. Everyone knows perfectly well what Quiroga has been doing, and he is going to the extreme right. I think offering to get out of Mercosur will cost him the presidency, and I think Paz will win comfortably. Also because many of Evo Morales and Arce previous voters have been rallying for Paz, and those who abstained on the order of Evo Morales will realize that Paz is a good option of maintaining identity politics relatively intact, but emphasizing economic development. So yes, Bolivia will remain, and Bolivia is actually the center of South America. If I had to choose a city in our continent which is approximately in the middle of the continent, it would be Santa Cruz, which is where the major international airport of Bolivia is located. So where are all these Navy and airplanes from the United States forces? We really haven't seen much, and trust me, I have been searching a lot and I don't find credible sources on where those United States assets are. And also they say it's about drug trafficking, and the United Nations Drug Agency in July released their cocaine production routes, transit routes. They are mostly over the Pacific through submarines. And these idiots are targeting ships in the Caribbean. They are looking at the wrong ocean. Okay, fine. They want to overthrow Nicolás Maduro, as they have tried to overthrow him during so many decades. But then just say it. Why do you have to disguise it with an irrelevant campaign involving the whole Caribbean so that the whole continent will unify against the aggressor? This is going to become a similar situation like European countries are uniting against the aggression of Russia in Ukraine. However, Russia is not trying to oust anyone in Europe. Russia is just defending territories it has already conquered, while the Caribbean is preparing so that we don't get any invasion and those patrollings can cease. So if we have the Caribbean countries trying to do business with Africa and the BRICS, and you have Petro and Maduro, and maybe Nasruddin Mohammed if he wins the presidency of Guyana, because obviously Irfan Ali doesn't want anything with us. Maybe he will lose, I don't know. I have tried to look at polls in Guyana, but I don't find many. Maybe they are unreliable, or maybe the poll industry is not well developed. However, what I have seen is that the trend in favor of Nasruddin is increasing, but I don't know if there is a polarization between both of them. I still think it is likely that Irfan Ali may be re-elected. So if Irfan Ali is re-elected, does that mean that Nasruddin Mohammed and his family are going to have to actually come into Venezuela because they actually applied for visas and they will be political refugees in Caracas so that they don't get extradited into the United States? Well, if that's the case, Nasruddin, welcome to Caracas and welcome to Venezuela, and maybe we will actually speak in person. But that's not my wish for you. I would rather have him win the presidency, but will he deliver? The problem of endorsing any candidate is that people around the world, that's in any country, we're so fed up with politicians. They all promise so much and they never deliver anything. And he said to the press that he doesn't want to deal with Venezuela at all. And he says that the Irfan Ali regime has not properly dealt with Essequibo. So Nasruddin wants to be even worse than Irfan Ali on the Essequibo matter? Because if that's the case, maybe then Irfan Ali should be re-elected, because at least we know who we are dealing with. The thing is that the economics of oil money is not right. I don't know. I really wish there were more Venezuelan Guyanese dialogue in many topics. We deserve it, just as we have had Colombia Venezuela dialogues on trade, on immigration, on drugs, as we are having now. But unfortunately, the border dispute is still taking a toll. Which is unfortunate, because I was at one of the social media sites and I heard and I read about an India-Pakistan fight. That is even more ridiculous, because both countries speak English and they don't understand each other. Okay, Kashmir, maybe from Pakistan or maybe from India, I don't know. They should just have it together for both countries and just settle that. I mean, they are building nuclear bombs for just a territory. When look at the Dutch, Holland, the Kingdom of the Netherlands. They are a tiny piece of land of Europe, and they have so many interests in all over the planet, as our friends in Aruba, Curacao, Bonaire, and Suriname, for example, with their heritage. And KLM Airlines, and what else do they have? Philips, Royal Dutch Shell. Isn't Shell company United Kingdom and Dutch? It's a major country, and they are not with this idiotic calamity of basing your entire relationship with your neighbor in a border dispute. Let's hope the Guyana elections come out well, but I am not having a good feeling. I have read that in every single election in Guyana there is a lot of tension and there are fraud accusations, and it looks like the same thing will happen again unless we soon see some rationale in the campaigns of the political parties. But they are trying to destroy Venezuela, they are trying to destroy their Guyanese opponents, they are trying to destroy everyone. Going back to Europe and Zelensky and Trump and Putin, it looks like a new age is coming. We really hope the Ukraine peace deal is possible. The problem is that Merz from Germany is talking about ceasefire. And even Donald Trump said very clearly he has been able to stop wars without a necessity of a ceasefire. Russia will not accept a ceasefire. And Giorgia Meloni was speaking about the bravery of the Ukrainian army. So does she want to continue the war? It looks like in the battlefields, Odessa, it has become completely Russian by now, because every day there are missiles and evacuations there. And in the 4 oblasts that Russia occupies, there is absolutely no way Ukraine can get any territory back. They need to start settling down. It looks like Zelensky wants to dialogue a little bit. This is the first time in my life I see a more sober Zelensky. But maybe that means that he is completely defeated, and we will know more about that. And obviously, as Marco Rubio needs a war because he's a war hawk, then he's finishing the war in Ukraine so that he can put us Guyanese and Venezuelans to fight. Well, Venezuela seems to have a lot more allies than we used to. We have an alliance with Colombia, we have an alliance with St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and with many African countries. Afro-Guyanese know what I'm talking about. Venezuela is a country where there is less racial problems than anywhere else. There are white people, there are mestizo people, there are black people. We don't get into this ridiculous classification of ethnic minority fights in Venezuela. That is a cultural feature our Venezuelan immigrants can teach the Guyanese, so that you guys can form all one Guyana, and of course Venezuelans will join in because we have Guyana, not only Guayana Esequiba, I mean Guyana as Bolivar State and Amazonas State, which are part of the Guayana Shield. I apologize if this show was not too structured this time, but this is the way the world is today. There are too many topics, there are too many questions, there are no answers, everything is in standby. So We'll see you in a couple of days and maybe some answers will emerge. Please subscribe to the channel. And for the Guyana and Trinidad and Tobago neighbors, please remember this show is for you. There are not too many English shows made in Venezuela, which is probably the reason why our countries don't know each other very well. And I am trying to get my voice heard in Trinidad and Tobago and Guyana, which are countries which don't have as much population as Venezuela, even at the expense of losing some of my Venezuelan subscribers, because I also want to teach a lesson to my Venezuelan subscribers that I am still just Venezuelan. They just have to turn on the subtitles in their social media platform. But it's important that we unite, and we will probably have to address Brazil as well, which is this huge country, always by himself, because nobody else speaks Portuguese but them.